Okay, thank you.
Back on the record on the Karen Reed matter.
Okay, so good afternoon, Council. Good afternoon, Ms. Gilman. I appreciate you being here. Before we see this video, just briefly, I just want to say that there were really only 2 motions that I'm comfortable with deciding by the 2 o'clock call here. Commonwealth's motion in limine of intent to obtain Corey. I don't know if I already allowed that, but that's allowed. And the Commonwealth's motion in limine, Jim, I think this is 317. Commonwealth's motion in limine to prohibit reference to any federal investigations conducted by the U.S. Attorney's Office or FBI. So that will come into evidence the way that it typically does here in Massachusetts. You can question as to a date where the statement was made under oath, and we can discuss it as it gets closer in more detail. So the other motions are under advisement. We'll talk about that when we come back to sort of housekeeping matters at the end of the day. So do you have that video all pulled up, Mr. Lally, for me to see?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And, Your Honor, for the record, it's a little bit lengthy as far as the entirety of the video. The portion that I would be submitting to the court is from 7 minutes and 4 seconds until 9 minutes and 55 seconds.
Okay. Can we? Thank you.
So we locked up the house. The back door we just did the knock lock.
Okay. Can you explain to me what the process is right now?
Absolutely. So you're going to be booked just like last time. Go through the same process. It's going to be a little less time consuming because we're not going to do major case prints because we did those last time. Once you're booked and you go through this portion of it, we'll let you make a phone call just like last time. We'll make a phone call. Your parents will be able to bring you whatever other additional need, things that you need.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow morning, you'll go and be arraigned at Norfolk Superior Court on the charges that were. I'm sure you'll go over the charges again with you on the warrant.
But I'm on bail, so how can I be spending the night here again?
All right, so I'll explain that portion to you. As long as it's not going to interfere with you, are you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Ram to.
Okay. So initially, your arrest was on probable cause out of the district court. Okay. So the charges that you were arrested on initially were out of district court, out of Stoughton District. That's where the arraignment was. It was district level charges. Today, grand jury indicted you on these charges, which is second-degree murder, vehicular homicide, and leaving the scene of a death. Okay? So those are the charges that grand jury indicted you on. So now you're being charged and will be arraigned in Superior Court, Norfolk County Superior Court in Devon. Okay?
So the bail doesn't apply anymore?
Typically, I'm not, so we don't set the bail. But typically, once murder comes into play, people are going to get bailed out.
So it's not manslaughter anymore, is that the difference?
That's correct. It's a higher degree of taking a life. Okay, so that's the charges that you're being charged with now. And you were indicted by grand jury.
Okay, you're aware he was beaten up by Brian Calm Albert. I mean, we're all in on the same joke, right? My tail light was cracked and John was pulverized. Okay, you need to abide by the rights that were afforded to you. Okay, so you can talk if you want. If you want to tell us what happened, that's fine. We'll listen, but you were ready to do your rights. Okay, and I'm sure he's going to do it again. All right, if you want to talk to us, you want to give us a story, definitely. But we'll take it. No, I mean, I know you already know the story, so I don't need to.
All right. How long is the entire tape?
So that is Trooper Pai, who was the arresting officer from the barracks. So it goes, I believe, at least 90 minutes or so.
All right. Do you have the entire, we're not playing it now, but do you have the entire video? All right. I would like it marked for identification.
Sure.
I'd also like a copy of it so I can view the whole entire thing, put it all in context. I never like to see just sections.
Sure.
Can I get that for the weekend as well?
Oh, absolutely, Your Honor. And for the record, as far as I think a lot of that sort of preliminary stuff was more meant as context for the court. You know, there's certain discussions about court procedure and things that I don't think should be put in front of the jury.
All right, so that was my concern as well. Okay, so it's something I'll watch a few times, and the whole thing as well. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Name for identification. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so housekeeping matters. A few things that I still need, as you know, before we have the jury here on Tuesday. I need a statement of the case. I know you have a short statement of the case in your proposed supplemental questionnaire. I think it needs to be more than that. So before you leave today, I'd like you all to agree on a joint statement of the case. I need witness lists. If the witnesses are going to be called, I have to read their names, as you know, to the jury on Tuesday morning. Once we get a jury, and I know none of us knows how long that might take, how long will it take to put in the Commonwealth's case? You can tell me with DNA and without DNA.
So with that piece of DNA, I don't think that's going to add much more than you know, an hour or two at the most. But best guess, given the schedule as outlined previously by the court, I'd say probably at least 4 weeks. My hope is there are some witnesses on the Commonwealth's witness list who are essentially testifying just in regard to administrative things, as far as, you know, work in an establishment. This is a true and accurate copy of surveillance video from said establishment.
Have you had preliminary discussions about whether there would be stipulations to authenticity like that?
No, but I plan to before Tuesday.
Okay. And you'll do that, Ms. Giannetti? You'll have these conversations before Tuesday?
I'm completely open to that.
Okay. So with the Commonwealth's case going 4 weeks, how long does the defense think their case will go?
With the schedule that the court has outlined, we're estimating about 2 weeks, Judge.
Okay. All right. I need to tell the jurors how long it will take. So if you say 6 weeks, I'm going to tell them 7, which will make it longer for us to get a jury. But
Right, understood. And then there's also the X factor of how long it takes to get a jury. Right?
Oh, exactly. No, I'm going to tell them once we get a jury, it will be 7 weeks, give or take.
And just while we're on this subject, Your Honor, does the court have any idea in terms of the availability of jurors every day of the week?
We don't have jurors on Fridays.
No jurors on Fridays?
No, and it gets progressively lower as the week goes on. But we've got jurors, once we start, the trial that is impaneling has priority over all other trials. So once we start, and I expect that we'll start on Tuesday, we'll do that. So there's a couple of things about the voir dire of the jurors. So we will do the voir dire, the individual voir dire of jurors over here at sidebar. And only one lawyer from each side is permitted to ask the questions of the jurors. I think I'll probably be able to give you 5 minutes or so for each witness, no more. And I'd like to talk to you all at sidebar now about your joint proposal of the questionnaire. This is something that is not public. It won't be made public until after it's decided upon and after it is presented to the jurors and they've filled it out. So a blank copy will be available then pursuant to what the law is. So why don't I see counsel at sidebar?
Is this safe, Your Honor?
Excuse me?
Is this
Yes, thank you.
continue our coverage of the final pretrial hearing in the Karen Reed case. The judge there with attorneys having a sidebar right now at Norfolk Superior Court as we look here at Karen Reed. The trial set to get underway on Tuesday. Right now, the judge is discussing issues about the case being presented to the jurors. She just went over the fact that she's going to put aside 7 weeks once a jury is selected, but that process begins next week. There is no indication right now of how long that process will take. So she said that the trial will take 7 weeks once the jurors are selected, but there's no indication of how long the jury selection process will take. The voir dire of each juror, about 5 minutes, she said that she will allot. There are various remaining pieces of paperwork, details that have to be supplied to the judge over the weekend before jury selection gets underway. We should say at this point, if you're just tuning in and you have not been following this case, here on CBS News Boston, on WBZ.com, and on the CBS Boston YouTube channel, we have a breakdown. I did a debrief of the case with investigative reporter Christina Hager, who has covered many of these hearings. And in it, we talk in the first half about laying out the facts and evidence of the case, what happened that night in 2021, and then the various issues and controversies in the death of Officer John O'Keefe. And so that is a good streaming resource to catch up on this case if you have not been following along. Of course, our reporters will be there covering the trial every day beginning next Tuesday as jury selection begins. But again, you can find that on the CBS News Boston WBZ YouTube channel, as well as here on WBZ.com at any time. It began streaming yesterday. So let's listen in, and we're waiting for the judge to wrap up this final pretrial hearing as the Karen Reed trial will get underway next week. we want to bring you up to date if you're just tuning in and joining us here on CBS News Boston. This is the final pretrial hearing underway in the Karen Reed case. The trial is set to officially begin on Tuesday with jury selection at Norfolk Superior Court there in Dedham. Right now, the judge is having a sidebar with the attorneys, both the prosecution and defense, of information which is not released to the public. So they are speaking right now. The judge just finished letting the attorneys know that once jury selection is underway, this trial does take precedence in the process there at the courthouse as they go to the selection of jurors every day. Once jury selection is completed, she anticipates the trial will take 7 weeks. So that would put us into June, and of course that will affect a number of the jurors, the length of a potential trial. Of course, some jurors will object for various reasons, so that might drag out jury selection a little bit. But so far today, this has become at the courthouse a very controlled environment. There is a official check-in. Families were cordoned off and then allowed inside before any spectators. We're told there were about 3 rows of O'Keefe family, 3 rows on Karen Reed's side. That is how things will proceed at the courthouse. There are spectators outside, as we've seen every time there is a hearing in this case, people who wear free Karen Reed shirts or hold signs, and the judge has addressed that, asking for a buffer zone around the courthouse once jury selection is underway. And the issues now will be about getting the jury selection in, having both parties agree to the statement of the case, which is due to the judge. She was asking for various final statements and paperwork that's due this weekend before she can let everything continue here in court. The judge is deciding 2 motions in the courtroom this afternoon. There are these housekeeping issues about jury selection. She had said that only 1 lawyer for each side will be allowed to ask questions for 5 minutes only as the voir dire for the jury begins. A video was played, and that was from the evening when Karen Reed was questioned. And so the judge said that she was going to look at that herself multiple times and decide which portions of that video would be for the eyes of the jury. And so we sit here now waiting as the judge speaks with the attorneys in the case. And these are the last issues that are getting ready to be resolved. This, no doubt, is going to be a very well-attended trial over the next few weeks in terms of media, members of the public outside, and we will have coverage every day here on CBS News Boston, and a complete wrap-up on WBZ News every day beginning at 5 o'clock. And once again, I'll direct you to my conversation with WBZ investigative reporter Christina Hager, who has reported on quite a few of these hearings. She is very knowledgeable about the case. And we did a complete rundown of the facts of the case, the evidence, the various controversies, everything that has transpired over the last 24 months or so leading up to this trial date. And you can find that either streaming here on WBZ.com, it's everything you need to know about the Karen Reed case, or on the WBZ CBS Boston YouTube channel. Of course, there are very conflicting views of how this evening in January of 2021 played out, and this will be the case that's presented to the jury. We're going to talk about what happened here just after 9 o'clock this morning. Several motions were discussed. The first issue and the major motion in the case is Karen Reed's right to a third-party culprit defense. The judge noted this morning that having that take place would be well within her constitutional right, and the prosecution argues that theories and names that have been brought up in the pretrial hearings would be an issue, but the defense presented evidence that they have for 3 potential other suspects. And the defense argued it was not their job to solve the case for the prosecution. It is Reed's right to argue that perhaps someone else did it. Someone else's actions led to the death of Officer John O'Keefe. Here are some other relevant motions that they discussed. They've talked today about excluding DNA. This was in regards to hair found on Karen Reed's bumper. The defense said that the hair had been in the custody of the Commonwealth, and they are just now in receipt of it and have not had enough time to prepare for trial next week. And so the judge said that she will revisit this because the Commonwealth disagreed with that assumption. There were motions regarding character evidence, excluding evidence by the defense in regards to an incident between Karen Reed and the victim during a vacation in the months leading up to this incident. This was something that happened in Aruba. The defense argued that this has nothing to do with the case, is not relevant, but the prosecution says that it would show the nature of their relationship. So the judge will make a decision about the admission of that. A similar motion by the prosecution was filed with regards to character evidence of witnesses. That motion was allowed. The other character that has emerged in this case because of his online presence has been Aidan Kearney, who is known as Turtle Boy online. There was a motion to exclude irrelevant harassment. Both parties agreed to that, but the judge said she was not sure. The motion is denied at this point, but there might be a witness that does open the door to a discussion of that during the trial. So that kind of remains off to the side for right now. The defense also filed a motion to exclude Karen Reed's blood alcohol content reading the night of the incident, saying that the range of evidence it was too large, and so it was not reliable, and the prosecution naturally wants that evidence included, and the judge is waiting for a memo. So a lot of this, we had discussed this with Christina Hager and Christina Rexy yesterday on the air, that there would be this flurry of motions and activity in this last pretrial hearing before the trial begins. Christina Hager has pointed out that many times we do not have this much information about what the defense is relying on heading into a trial. But in this case, so much of it has been made so public. The public is well aware of a lot of the evidence and the way the defense is going to lean in this case, which has just been another interesting aspect of covering this trial. Another motion by the prosecution regarded the manner of death. The prosecution said they wanted the jury to determine the manner of death, but the defense said that that is undetermined on John O'Keefe's death certificate, arguing it's relevant, and this, again, taken under advisement by the judge. A motion by the prosecution regarding questioning young witnesses was unopposed, a young witness. And there was a motion to allow for the criminal records of jurors to be obtained. There's also some body camera footage that the prosecution wants to admit in evidence, and the judge plans to take a look this afternoon at this evidence. This was the footage that was shown about 10 or 15 minutes ago in the courtroom. The defense argues that displaying video of Reed in custody post-arrest would be prejudicial. The judge said that she planned to take that video. It was played in the courtroom. The judge, however, wants to view it, as she said, multiple times so that she will decide exactly what the jurors will be allowed to see once the evidence is presented during the actual trial, once it gets underway. And several other motions were not objected to by the defense, and so other issues moved along quickly. Again, right now, the judge is at a sidebar with the attorneys, having private discussions about issues that are not on the public record and not made public. As we watch Karen Reed wait in the courtroom, you're looking at scene videotape from the scene of the night of John O'Keefe's death there on your right. And so we will continue our coverage of this final pretrial hearing. We'll take a quick break right now, send you back to news on CBS News Boston, and bring you more as they get underway in the courtroom.
So you have to be 18 years old to run the Boston Marathon, and a Newton teenager will hit that mark the day he hits the course. WBZ's Julie McDonald shows us what will push him to the finish line.
And I saw that the date fell on April 15th, and I was like, this is perfect, I'm going to do it.
Growing up along the historic Boston Marathon route, Newton native Spencer Bernstein knew he'd love to be a part of it. He finally can, turning 18 on Marathon Monday.
I'll be able to celebrate after, but I really want Monday to be about Preston.
Running toward the finish line on his first legal day as an adult, Spencer's thoughts will be flooded by the past. Precious memories of a friend whose spirit will stay 15.
And he was just so much fun to be around. Just the most outgoing and charismatic person.
Preston Settles collapsed during a basketball game in 2022. He had hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. The thickened heart muscle condition often goes undiagnosed without symptoms.
Over those next 3 weeks, it was really difficult to see kind of his downhill progression. And sometimes you heard some good news, and then there was a lot more bad news.
His death was devastating for the many, many family and friends who adored the boy. And now Spencer will run the marathon to turn something so bad into good, protecting others.
I would write his initials on my wrist and stuff like that. And then when the marathon came around, I'm like, this is for Preston, this is it.
Spencer has twice surpassed his fundraising goal, donating more than $16,000 to speeding up the detection of and care for people with the heart condition.
You know, he would love it, and he would think that this is such a great honor to him, and I know that he's going to be watching me on Monday.
Julie McDonald, WBZ News.
Julie, thank you. Now, when you think of Lassie, this is probably not what you have in mind. After the break, the mission to send a robot dog to the moon and why it's called the Lassie Project. Stay with us.
case continues now. The judge and attorneys just finished a sidebar there. It appears they are wrapping up for the day.
Galoshes.
We see Karen Reed getting ready to exit the courtroom with her attorney. There were several motions that were dealt with today, and now they will break for the weekend. Jury selection is set to begin on Tuesday. The judge told the attorneys, after discussing with them how much time they would need to present their evidence, that she is going to allot 7 weeks for this trial after the jury is seated. She has no idea how long the jury selection will take, but we see family members and supporters filing out of the courtroom now. And we will have full coverage of this trial. And we want to give you a little bit of what happened at the hearing today.
It's a little bit lengthy as far as the entirety of the video. The portion that I